The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the officers' mess hall at Naval Base Coronado like a gunshot. Coffee, scalding hot and black as midnight, spread across the pristine white dress uniform of Admiral Mason Hartley, commander of SEAL Team 6. The woman responsible, a slight figure in a worn kitchen uniform, immediately dropped to her knees, trembling hands clutching a gray dish rag. I'm so sorry, Admiral." Her voice barely rose above a whisper, eyes fixed on the spreading stain. "Unbelievable!" Hartley's voice boomed across the hall, drawing the attention of 47 officers and enlisted personnel. His face flushed red, veins pulsing at his temple. "How long have you been doing this job? Or did they hire you through some charity program for incompetent civilians?" Laughter erupted from the SEAL table, harsh and mocking. Lieutenant Brad Knox, built like a linebacker with arms covered in tribal tattoos, slapped the table. "Hey, Admiral, ask what her rank is. Bet she's a 5-star coffee spiller." The woman continued wiping, her movements precise, methodical. From his position near the security station, Captain Blake Rivera narrowed his eyes. Something about the way she positioned herself, weight balanced on the balls of her feet, shoulders aligned, hands never crossing her center line, struck him as oddly familiar, too controlled, too professional. "What's your rank, ma'am?" Hartley leaned down, his breath hot with contempt. "Come on, tell all us real warriors here what prestigious position you hold in the coffee-serving brigade." The woman's hands stilled. Slowly, her eyes lifted, pale gray, like winter storm clouds, and for a fraction of a second, Rivera could have sworn he saw something dangerous flicker in their depths before vanishing. "My rank," she said softly, each word carefully measured, "isn't in your system, Admiral." The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Then Hartley laughed, a cruel bark that shattered the tension. "Not in my system? What are you, some kind of secret agent? Get me a fresh uniform from supply, and try not to destroy that one, too." As she rose, her movement fluid despite her apparent age, mid-40s, Rivera guessed. Something metallic caught the light at her collar. Dog tags? No, they were tucked too deep, hidden beneath layers. She turned away, but not before Rivera caught her scanning the room, counting exits, memorizing positions. His hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm. Master Chief Ethan Williams, weathered face marked by 30 years of service, shifted in his seat across the room. That stance, that particular way of distributing weight, he'd seen it before, years ago in places that didn't officially exist. His coffee cup paused halfway to his lips as recognition sparked in his eyes, then died just as quickly. Impossible. She was dead. Kandahar, 2009. They'd held a memorial service. The woman, Iris, according to the faded name tag on her uniform, returned with a fresh uniform, moving through the crowded mess hall like water flowing around rocks. She never bumped anyone, never had to adjust her path, as if she could predict every movement 3 steps ahead. When Petty Officer Amber Hayes suddenly stood from her table, Iris smoothly altered course without looking, maintaining perfect distance. "Here you are, Admiral," she said, offering the uniform with both hands, traditional respect posture that most civilians wouldn't know. Hartley snatched it away. "About time, and clean this mess properly. On your knees where servants belong." A muscle twitched in Iris's jaw, the only sign of emotion as she knelt again, resuming her methodical cleaning. Lieutenant Chloe Chen, fresh from officer training, started to rise from her seat, indignation flashing across her young face. But Commander Jessica Stone grabbed her wrist. "Don't," Stone whispered, though her eyes glittered with malicious amusement. "Let the nobody learn her place. Besides, the Admiral's just getting started." Indeed, Mason Hartley was enjoying himself. In front of his men, his power absolute, he circled the kneeling woman like a shark. "You know what separates warriors from civilians? We've earned our place through blood and sacrifice. What have you done? Mastered the art of the coffee pour?" The SEALs laughed again, but Master Chief Williams didn't join them. He watched Iris's hands as she worked, the way her fingers never fully extended, always maintaining tactical flexibility, the way she kept her weight on her rear foot, ready to spring. Details that screamed combat training to anyone who knew what to look for. Blake Rivera pulled out his phone, discreetly typing into the personnel database. Iris Caldwell, kitchen staff, hired 6 months ago. Previous employment, various food service positions across California. Background check, clean. Too clean. No social media, no family listed, no emergency contacts. The the kind of clean that raised red flags in his experience. He tried accessing deeper records, but the system returned an unusual message: access restricted, insufficient clearance. Before we continue this story of hidden warriors and shattered assumptions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Every week, we bring you incredible true stories of unsung heroes who served in shadows, protecting freedom without recognition. Your support helps us honor these silent guardians who sacrificed everything while the world never knew their names. Don't miss what happens when a simple cafeteria worker's past collides with an admiral's arrogance. Rivera frowned at his screen. He had Gamma-level clearance, high enough to access most classified personnel files. What kind of kitchen worker required higher classification? He initiated a different search protocol, one that pinged Pentagon databases. Meanwhile, the scene in the mess hall continued to escalate. Brad Knox had joined his admiral, towering over Iris as she finished cleaning. "You missed a spot," he said, deliberately knocking over a salt shaker with his boot. "Better get that too." Iris's hand moved to catch the falling shaker, but stopped mid-motion, letting it hit the floor. The movement had been too fast, too precise, a trained reflex deliberately suppressed. Only 3 people noticed: Rivera, Williams, and, surprisingly, young Ensign Willow Brooks, whose background in martial arts recognized the controlled muscle tension of someone stopping a programmed response. "Clumsy in multiple ways," Commander Stone observed loudly, earning another round of laughter. "Though I suppose we should be grateful the base employs the unemployable. Charity work and all that." Chloe Chen's face burned with anger, but before she could speak, Iris stood, the cleaning complete. She moved toward the kitchen, but Admiral Hartley's voice stopped her. "Hold on. You haven't answered my question properly. What exactly is your background? What qualifies you to serve America's finest?" Iris turned slowly, her expression neutral as carved stone. "I serve food, Admiral. Nothing more." "Nothing more," Hartley repeated mockingly. "At least you know your place, unlike some people who think they deserve respect without earning it." His eyes flicked meaningfully toward Chloe Chen, the only female officer at the SEAL table. "Participation trophies don't count in the real military, ladies." The insult hung in the air like poison gas. Several officers shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke up. The Admiral's word was law here, his influence reaching up to the highest levels of Naval Special Warfare Command. Crossing him meant career suicide. Iris's gaze moved to Chloe, and something passed between them. A moment of understanding, perhaps even recognition of shared experience. Then Iris spoke, her voice carrying a subtle shift in timbre that made Williams's blood run cold with memory. "Respect," she said slowly, "isn't earned through humiliation of others, Admiral. It's earned through actions when no one's watching, through choices that have no witnesses, through service that seeks no recognition." The philosophical response caught everyone off guard. Hartley's face darkened. "Did I ask for your opinion on leadership, dishwasher?" "You asked about qualifications," Iris replied evenly. "I gave you mine." Chief Daniel Park, the base's senior security advisor, leaned forward with interest. The woman's bearing had changed, subtle but unmistakable. Her shoulders were back, her chin lifted just enough to meet Hartley's gaze directly. It was the posture of someone who had held command, who had given orders that meant life or death. In today's military operations, secure communication can mean life or death. Modern encrypted smartphones designed for defense contractors offer military-grade security with biometric locks and self-destruct features. These devices, similar to what special operations units use, protect sensitive information while maintaining civilian appearance. Units like Ghost 7 rely on technology that leaves no digital footprint, ensuring operatives remain invisible even in connected environments. Hartley stepped closer to Iris, using his considerable height advantage to loom over her. At 6 feet 3 inches, 220 pounds of muscle, he dwarfed her 5 foot 4 inch frame. "You're getting a bit mouthy for kitchen help. Maybe you need a reminder of where you stand in the food chain." He reached out to grab her shoulder, intending to push her back, to reassert his dominance physically. His hand never made contact. Iris moved like smoke, a minimal shift that left Hartley grasping air. She hadn't stepped back or aside. She'd simply ceased to be where his hand expected her. The movement was so subtle, so economical, that most observers thought Hartley had simply misjudged the distance. But Blake Rivera saw it for what it was: advanced close-quarters combat evasion, the kind taught only in the most elite military programs. His database search suddenly returned a result that made his blood freeze. File sealed, eyes only, Gamma, plus authorization required, Operation Blackwater classified. Master Chief Williams stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Admiral Hartley, sir, perhaps we should— Sit down, Master Chief, Hartley snapped, his embarrassment transforming into rage. I'm handling this. Williams remained standing, his weathered face creased with concern. Sir, with all due respect, I think— I said sit down. The Admiral's roar silenced the entire mess hall. Unless you want to join her in learning about respect. Slowly, reluctantly, Williams sat, but his eyes never left Iris. She stood perfectly still, hands at her sides in a position that looked relaxed, but Rivera recognized as ready stance, able to move in any direction, attack or defend, in under a second. You got lucky, Hartley snarled at Iris. But luck runs out. He turned to his SEALs. Knox, Vega, demonstrate some basic combat moves for our friend here. Show her what real training looks like. Lieutenant Brad Knox grinned, cracking his knuckles as he stood. Petty Officer Carlos Vega, the team's weapons specialist, joined him, both men moving to create a demonstration space. They began with basic strikes and blocks, their movements sharp and powerful, designed to intimidate. See that? Hartley addressed Iris while his men performed. Years of training, muscle memory, discipline, not something you pick up serving slop to sailors. Iris watched the demonstration with an expression that might have been polite interest or complete boredom. When Knox threw a particularly aggressive combination, her left hand twitched, just barely, fingers forming a specific pattern for less than a second. Williams caught it, and his face went pale. That hand signal, tactical sign language, meant sloppy, exposed right flank. It was used only by SEAL instructors evaluating students. Rivera's phone buzzed with an encrypted message from his Pentagon contact. Stop digging, that's an order. Whatever you think you found, forget it. But Rivera couldn't forget the growing mountain of inconsistencies. He initiated a facial recognition search through military databases, using a photo he'd discreetly taken. The system churned, processing, then returned. No matches found. But underneath, in small red text, facial recognition blocked. Directive 77 Alpha, Directive 77 Alpha. Rivera had only heard rumors of it, a protocol used to protect the identities of deep cover operatives, assets so valuable or dangerous that their existence was need to know at the highest levels. If you're intrigued by what's unfolding, drop a comment below about your theories. Who do you think this mysterious server really is? Like this video, if you believe every warrior deserves respect, regardless of their current position, share it with someone who loves military mysteries. The demonstration continued, growing more aggressive. Knox and Vega were showing off now, throwing full-speed combinations that whistled through the air. Several younger enlisted personnel had gathered to watch, phones discreetly recording. Hey, coffee lady, Knox called out, breathing hard from exertion. Wanna try? I'll go slow, promise. Might be good for you to learn some self-defense. Never know when you might need it. His grin was predatory. I'm fine, thank you, Iris replied quietly. Come on, Commander Stone chimed in, her voice dripping false concern. Every woman should know how to protect herself. Unless you're scared. Leave her alone, Chloe Chen finally spoke up, unable to stay silent any longer. This is harassment, Hartley rounded on her. Harassment? This is education, Lieutenant. Something you clearly need more of if you can't tell the difference. Sir, with respect, forcing a civilian to— No one's forcing anyone, Hartley cut her off. I'm simply offering our kitchen staff a chance to learn from the best. Unless she has something to hide. All eyes turned to Iris. She stood motionless for a long moment, then spoke in a voice that carried despite its softness. I hide nothing, Admiral, but some things are better left buried. Cryptic nonsense, Hartley scoffed. Knox, show her a basic defensive move. Slowly. Knox approached Iris with exaggerated casualness, reaching for her wrist in a standard grip. Just gonna show you how to break free if someone grabs. He never finished the sentence. The moment his hand made contact, Iris moved. It wasn't the panicked flailing of an untrained civilian, or even the mechanical response of someone who had taken a self-defense class. It was pure, refined muscle memory. She rotated her wrist against his thumb, the weakest point of any grip, while simultaneously stepping into his space, using his own momentum against him. Knox, 200 pounds of trained muscle, found himself off balance, stumbling forward. Iris had already stepped aside, hands returning to her sides as if nothing had happened. The mess hall went dead silent. Knox recovered, face flushing red. "You pushed me!" "I did not touch you beyond breaking your grip," Iris stated factually. "You overextended. Common mistake when you telegraph your intentions." Rivera's mind raced. That wasn't just training, that was expertise. The kind that came from years of practical application, not dojo practice. His phone buzzed again, this time with a partial file that had somehow slipped through the classification blocks. A single line of text. Operation Ghost 7, KIA presumed, Kandahar, 2009, Caldwell, I. Rank, classified above Admiral. Above Admiral. There was only one rank above Admiral in the Navy that could be classified, Vice Admiral or higher, operating in black operations outside the traditional chain of command. Master Chief Williams was on his feet again, this time moving toward the confrontation. "Admiral, sir, I really think we should—" "Master Chief, one more interruption and you're on report," Hartley snarled. He turned back to Iris, his face twisted with wounded pride. "Lucky again. But luck always runs out." He grabbed a coffee mug from the nearest table and threw it at Iris. Not hard enough to seriously injure, but fast enough to be unavoidable for a normal person. The ceramic mug sailed through the air on a direct path for her shoulder. Iris caught it without looking. Her hand simply appeared in the right place at the right time, fingers closing around the handle with casual precision. She set the mug down on the nearest table, her expression never changing. "How?" Amber Hayes breathed, her phone still recording. "Peripheral vision and spatial awareness," Iris replied calmly. "You develop it working in busy kitchens." But everyone who knew anything about combat knew better. That was trained reflex, honed over years of having objects, and worse, thrown at you in life or death situations. Veterans transitioning to civilian life often discover their military benefits don't cover everything. Specialized insurance programs for special operations personnel provide coverage for injuries that never happened during classified missions. These policies understand that some heroes can't explain their scars or medical needs due to security clearances. Financial protection extends to family members who may never know the full extent of their loved one's service. Captain Samuel Reed, a former Delta Force operator who now served as a training instructor, stood slowly from his table in the corner. He'd been watching silently, but something about that catch, the perfect economy of motion, triggered a memory. "Kandahar," he said suddenly, his voice cutting through the tension. "Summer 2009. Operation Blackwater." Every head turned to him. Reed's eyes were fixed on Iris, his expression one of growing recognition mixed with disbelief. "You were there?" Hartley demanded. "Reed, what are you talking about?" Reed ignored him, taking a step toward Iris. "The convoy ambush. 15 clicks outside the green zone. We were pinned down, taking heavy fire. Delta and SEALs, 43 operators total. The relief force was 8 hours out." Iris remained perfectly still, but Rivera saw her jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "Then she came," Reed continued, his voice filled with awe. "One operator. Ghost Unit 7. Came through enemy lines like death itself. I never saw her face. She wore full tactical gear, night vision, the works. But I'll never forget what she did." The room was utterly silent now, every person hanging on Reed's words. "She eliminated 37 hostiles in 14 minutes. Alone. Set up a defensive perimeter that held for 8 hours until extraction arrived. Lost her left eye in the process, but never stopped fighting. Never even slowed down." Reed's voice dropped to a whisper. "They gave her the Medal of Honor for that action. Classified ceremony. President's eyes only." He took another step toward Iris. "They told us she died 2 weeks later. Infection from the wound. But I always wondered, the body was never recovered. And there was that rumor about Ghost Unit 7, that they didn't exist on any official record, that they could become anyone, anywhere." Admiral Hartley laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's ridiculous. You're saying this dishwasher is some kind of secret super soldier? Reed, lay off the spy novels." But Blake Rivera was staring at his phone screen, where a new file had just unlocked, triggered by Reed's mention of Operation Blackwater. A single photo, heavily redacted, showing a woman in tactical gear. The face was obscured, but the build, the stance, it could be Iris. And beneath it, a service record that made his hands shake. 218 confirmed missions, 15 Purple Hearts, 3 Navy Crosses, Congressional Medal of Honor, Presidential Unit Citation. And at the bottom, a single line. "Commander, Ghost Unit 7, authorization level, eyes only, POTUS direct command. It's impossible, Williams said, but his voice carried no conviction. He was staring at Iris with the expression of a man seeing a ghost. Iris Caldwell died in Kandahar. I was at the memorial service. Was there a body? Reed asked pointedly. Williams fell silent. Hartley, his face red with embarrassment and anger, slammed his fist on the table. Enough of this fantasy. She's nobody. A nobody who serves coffee and cleans tables. And I'll prove it right now. He strode toward Iris, reaching for her collar. Let's see those dog tags you're hiding. Every veteran keeps them. If you're some kind of hero, prove it. Iris caught his wrist before he could touch her. The movement was so fast that most people didn't see it happen. One moment Hartley was reaching forward. The next his wrist was held in Iris's grip. His forward momentum completely stopped. Her small hand held his thick wrist with no apparent effort, but Hartley's face contorted with shock. He couldn't move. "Do not touch me," Iris said quietly, her voice carrying an edge of steel that hadn't been there before. "Please." She released his wrist and stepped back, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen it. The small, middle-aged cafeteria worker had just stopped a Navy SEAL admiral with one hand. Commander Ryan Foster, the base commander who had just entered the mess hall, took in the frozen tableau with experienced eyes. The way personnel were positioned, the tension in the air, Hartley's shocked expression, and Iris standing calmly in the center of it all. His eyes narrowed as he noticed details others had missed, the subtle defensive positions several people had unconsciously taken, the way Master Chief Williams had positioned himself to intervene, and most importantly, the way Iris held herself. He'd seen that stance before, in people who'd spent so long in combat that it became their natural state. "What's going on here?" Foster's command voice cut through the tension. "Sir," Hartley started, rubbing his wrist, "this civilian assaulted me." "I saw her defend herself from unwanted physical contact," Chloe Chen said boldly, surprising everyone including herself. "The Admiral attempted to grab her without consent." Foster's gaze moved between them, settling finally on Iris. "Ma'am, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Commander. Thank you for asking." Something in her tone made Foster look closer. The way she'd said his rank, not with deference or fear, but with the casual acknowledgement of an equal, or perhaps a superior. His phone buzzed. A message from CENTCOM. "Cease all inquiries regarding I, Caldwell, immediately." Direct order from SecNav? The Secretary of the Navy himself was involved? Foster pocketed his phone, mind racing. Who was this woman? The revelation is about to shake this entire base. Before we witness the most shocking military identity reveal you've ever seen, remember to subscribe. We're approaching the moment that will change everything. Hit that like button if you're ready for the truth. The standoff might have continued indefinitely, but fate intervened. The lights flickered, a power surge from the ongoing construction on the base. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everyone in harsh red light. In that moment, as Iris turned toward the emergency exits by instinct, her collar shifted. Master Chief Williams saw it first, a tattoo, partially visible on her neck. 7 stars arranged in a perfect circle around a ghost-like figure. Below it, text in Greek letters that he could just make out. Yahust 7, Mother of God, he breathed. It's true. But before anyone could react, a new crisis emerged. Petty Officer Carlos Vega, frustrated by the attention being pulled away from their demonstration, decided to prove his point another way. He pulled out his sidearm, unloaded, but no one knew that, and pointed it at Iris. "Let's see how good those reflexes really are," he sneered. Time slowed down. Iris moved faster than thought. In the space between heartbeats, she crossed 8 feet, her body low and angular, making herself a difficult target. Her left hand swept up, pushing the gun's barrel toward the ceiling, while her right hand struck Vega's wrist at a specific nerve cluster. The gun clattered to the floor. Vega found himself spun around, arm twisted behind his back, face pressed against the nearest table. The entire sequence took less than 2 seconds. "Never," Iris said quietly, her mouth near Vega's ear. "Point a weapon at anyone unless you intend to use it. First rule of firearms training. Didn't they teach you that in Buds?" She released him and stepped back, but the damage was done. Everyone had seen it. The speed, the precision, the absolute control. This wasn't self-defense training or lucky reflexes. This was elite military combat training, honed to perfection. Former Special Operations members seeking civilian careers can access specialized training programs that translate classified skills into marketable credentials. These accredited online courses help warriors with redacted service records build new identities in private security, consulting, or emergency management. Legal services included help navigate the complex process of declassifying experience for employment purposes without compromising operational security. Vega stumbled back, his face pale. How did you... That's advanced SEAL close quarters combat. How does a cafeteria worker know that? Before Iris could respond, Blake Rivera's phone exploded with notifications. The facial recognition system had finally broken through some level of classification, triggered by the emergency lighting that had caused Iris to drop her guard for just a moment. Images flooded his screen, combat footage from helmet cameras, satellite imagery, operational photos, all heavily redacted, but showing the same slight figure in various military operations across Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, Syria. Each image was tagged with the same identifier, Ghost 7 Actual, and then, at the bottom of the cascade of files, a single unredacted document that made Rivera's blood run cold. A presidential executive order dated 6 months ago. Ghost Unit 7 Commander authorized for deep cover civilian integration. All military and civilian personnel are ordered to maintain cover integrity. Disclosure of operative identity is punishable under the Espionage Act. He looked up from his phone to find Iris watching him. Their eyes met, and she gave the tiniest shake of her head. Not yet, her expression said. Not like this. But Admiral Hartley, humiliated and enraged, wasn't done. Vega, you idiot! She got lucky because you weren't ready. This is what happens when we let civilians think they're special. He turned to the room at large. Everyone seems to have forgotten what real service looks like. This woman is nobody. She's a fraud, playing soldier, probably learned some moves from YouTube videos. Admiral, Commander Foster said warningly, I think we should all take a step back. No, Hartley roared. I've had enough of this charade. Knox, Vega, Park, Stone, all of you. Let's show this room what real military training looks like. Full demonstration, now. His team reluctantly stood, forming a circle around Iris. 5 highly trained special operations personnel against 1 middle-aged cafeteria worker. It should have been absurd. Instead, the tension in the room ratcheted up to an almost unbearable level. Admiral, Master Chief Williams said urgently, you don't want to do this. Trust me. You don't know who. I know exactly who she is, Hartley snarled. She's a nobody who's about to learn her place. Iris stood in the center of the circle, her posture relaxed but ready. She looked at each of the SEALs surrounding her, then spoke in a voice that carried absolute certainty. I'm going to give you all one chance to walk away. No shame in it. Just turn around and walk away. Commander Jessica Stone laughed mockingly. The dishwasher is giving us a chance? How generous. It's not generosity, Iris replied quietly. It's mercy. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Hartley's face turned purple with rage. Take her down. Gently. We don't want to actually hurt the civilian. Knox moved first, reaching for Iris with a standard restraint hold. She flowed around him like water, using his own momentum to send him stumbling into Vega. Park came from behind, trying to grab her arms. She dropped low, sweeping his legs while simultaneously avoiding Stone's attempt to grab her hair. The SEALs regrouped, their embarrassment turning to determination. They moved more carefully now, coordinating their approach. But Iris was always one step ahead, always in motion, using their numbers against them. She never attacked, only redirected, evaded, turned their aggression back on itself. It was, Rivera realized, like watching a master chess player face amateurs. She could see every move coming, had already calculated every possible response. And she was holding back. He could see it in the controlled precision of her movements. She could have seriously hurt any of them at any time. She was choosing not to. The demonstration became increasingly desperate. The SEALs were breathing hard, frustrated, while Iris barely seemed winded. She moved with an economy that spoke of decades of training, of countless real-world applications where wasted movement meant death. Finally, Knox lost his temper completely. He threw a real punch, full force, aimed at Iris's face. She didn't dodge. Instead, she redirected the punch with the lightest touch to his wrist, sending his fist into the wall behind her. The impact was tremendous. Knox cried out, cradling his potentially broken hand. But what made everyone freeze was what the impact had revealed. The force of Knox's punch had torn Iris's uniform sleeve, revealing her left arm. Scars covered it. Precise, deliberate scars that told a story. Bullet wounds, knife wounds, shrapnel patterns. But more than that, there was a tattoo running the length of her forearm. Names and dates, dozens of them, in small, precise script. Reed recognized the format immediately. That's a memorial tattoo. Every operator she lost under her command. The room was silent except for Knox's pained breathing. Iris looked down at her exposed arm, then slowly rolled up the torn sleeve, fully revealing the memorial. At the bottom, in slightly larger text, was a phrase in Latin. Mortuae vivos docent. The dead teach the living. 43 names, she said quietly. 43 soldiers who died following my orders. 43 families who got folded flags instead of homecomings. 43 reasons why I left that life behind. Williams stepped forward, his voice thick with emotion. Ghost 7. It really is you. But why? Why fake your death? Why become this? Iris met his gaze steadily. Because ghosts don't get to retire, Master Chief. They just disappear. And sometimes, disappearing means becoming someone so ordinary, so beneath notice, that even people looking for you won't see you. But we were told you died, Williams persisted. The infection from your eye wound. Cover story, Iris said simply. The infection was real, but treatable. The government needed Ghost 7 to die, so Iris Caldwell could live. A deal was made. I disappear, they leave me alone. I get to find out what normal life is like. Normal? Hartley spat, his humiliation complete. You call this normal? Hiding who you are? Pretending to be worthless? I call it peaceful, Iris replied. No one dies because of my decisions. No one's parents get a midnight knock on their door because of my orders. I serve coffee, I clean tables, I go home to an empty apartment, and don't dream about the faces of the dead. That's worth more than all the medals they gave me. She looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. But peace, I've learned, is fragile, and there are always those who mistake kindness for weakness, silence for submission, service for servitude. Her gaze settled on Admiral Hartley. You asked about my rank, Admiral. The truth is, I don't have one anymore. I gave it up. But when I did have one, she paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded life and death for decades. Let's just say you would have been calling me ma'am, and meaning it. Want more stories of hidden heroes and military justice? Our next video reveals a Navy pilot who disappeared for 10 years, only to return when her country needed her most. Subscribe now and join our community of 2 million viewers who honor silent service. The lights flickered again, and when they steadied, Commander Foster was standing beside Iris, his phone in his hand. I've just received confirmation from CENTCOM, he announced, his voice formal. All personnel are ordered to cease and desist immediately. Any further action against Ms. Caldwell will be considered assault on a federal asset and prosecuted accordingly. But the real shock came from Master Chief Williams, who had pulled out his own phone and was staring at something on the screen. Admiral Hartley, he said slowly, you might want to see this. He held up his phone, showing a military database entry that had just been unlocked. It showed a younger Iris in full-dress uniform, her rank insignia clearly visible. Vice Admiral, 3 stars. And beside her in the photo, shaking her hand, was a much younger Mason Hartley, then just a lieutenant fresh out of buds. No, Hartley breathed, the color draining from his face, as recognition finally dawned. You're Invisible Caldwell. You were my instructor, the ghost instructor. You saved my career when I almost washed out. Iris nodded once. Week 6. You wanted to quit. Said you couldn't take the pressure. I spent 8 hours with you that night, talking you through it. Taught you that strength isn't about being the biggest or the loudest. It's about enduring when everything inside you wants to break. She looked at him with something that might have been pity. You seem to have forgotten that lesson, Mason. The use of his first name, the casual familiarity, broke something in Hartley. He sank into the nearest chair, his entire worldview shattered. Around him, his team stood in shocked silence, processing the reality that they had just attempted to physically restrain a decorated vice admiral, a ghost unit commander, a living legend they had all heard stories about but never believed existed. The silence in the mess hall was deafening. Admiral Mason Hartley sat slumped in his chair, his face pale as parchment, struggling to reconcile the woman before him with the legend he'd worshipped as a young SEAL trainee. His team stood frozen, their earlier aggression evaporated like morning mist before the sun. Blake Rivera's phone buzzed insistently. The Pentagon database had fully unlocked now, cascade after cascade of classified files flooding his screen. Operation Nightfall in Syria, 42 terrorists eliminated, 0 civilian casualties. Operation Deep Six in Somalia, an entire pirate network dismantled by a single operative. Operation Crimson Dawn in Pakistan, classified so deeply that even the mission name was redacted, except for those with presidential clearance. 218 missions, Rivera read aloud, his voice filled with awe. Success rate, 100%. Casualties under command, 43. Enemy combatants neutralized, redacted for national security. He looked up at Iris. The number's so high they won't even print it. Master Chief Ethan Williams stepped forward slowly, as if approaching a shrine. Kandahar, August 12, 2009, 1700 hours. His weathered face cracked with emotion. You came for us. 43 operators trapped, surrounded by over 200 Taliban fighters. Air support was 8 hours out. We'd already lost 5 men. We were writing goodbye letters on anything we could find. Iris remained still, but her jaw tightened at the memory. Williams continued, his voice thick. Then we heard it on the radio. Ghost 7 actual inbound, clear the northern approach. We thought it was a full unit coming, but it was just you. One woman against an army. How? Chloe Chen whispered, speaking the question everyone was thinking. How does one person... Because she wasn't a person in that moment, Williams answered. She was death incarnate. I watched through my scope as she moved through those enemy positions. No wasted movement, no hesitation. Every shot precise, every decision perfect. She carved a path through their lines like she was conducting a symphony of violence. He turned to face the room. But that's not even the most incredible part. After she secured our position, after she'd been shot 3 times and lost her left eye to shrapnel, she held that perimeter, alone, for 8 straight hours. Anyone else would have died from blood loss, but not her. She just endured. The eye, someone whispered, and everyone looked at Iris's face more carefully. In the harsh fluorescent lighting, they could see it now, the almost imperceptible difference between her eyes, one natural, one an incredibly sophisticated prosthetic. German engineering, Iris said quietly, touching her left temple. Gift from a grateful NATO ally. Most people never notice. Commander Ryan Foster cleared his throat. Ma'am, Vice Admiral, with all due respect, why are you here? Why work in our kitchen? Iris's shoulders lifted in a small shrug. Where else would I go? I spent 30 years in combat zones. 30 years of making decisions that sent young men and women to their deaths. Even successful missions have a cost. Every victory is paid for in blood, usually by kids barely old enough to vote. She moved to the window, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. After Kandahar, after they saved my eye, or replaced it rather, I was given a choice. Continue as Ghost 7 or disappear entirely. The government was restructuring special operations, worried about operators like me who'd been in the field too long, seen too much, done things that... She paused. Things that don't exist in official records. So, you chose to disappear, Foster said. I chose to live, Iris corrected. For the first time in my adult life, I chose something other than duty. I chose peace, anonymity, the chance to serve without anyone dying because of my service. She turned back to face them. Do you know what it's like to sleep without calculating threat assessments? To make coffee without wondering if today's the day your past finds you? It's beautiful. It's freedom. But you maintained your skills, Blake Rivera observed, gesturing at the 5 SEALs she'd just humiliated without breaking a sweat. Muscle memory doesn't forget, Iris replied, and old habits die hard. Every morning I still run combat drills. Every evening I disassemble and clean weapons I no longer own. Every night I plan operations I'll never execute. You can take the ghost out of the unit, but you can't take the unit out of the ghost. Admiral Hartley finally found his voice, though it cracked like a teenager's. Why didn't you say something? When I was treating you like a nobody, Iris finished. Because that's what I wanted to be, Admiral. A nobody. Someone invisible, forgettable, beneath notice. Your treatment, cruel as it was, actually helped maintain my cover. Who would suspect a woman you publicly humiliated of being anything special? But I disrespected you, insulted you. Hartley's voice broke completely. You acted like a bully, Iris said simply, like someone who had forgotten why they serve, who they predict. You became the very thing we swore to stand against. Someone who uses power to humiliate those they perceive as weak. She moved closer to him, and everyone tensed, but her voice was gentle. I trained you, Mason. I saw potential in you when everyone else saw a washout. You were compassionate once, humble. You understood that strength was meant to protect, not persecute. What happened to that young man? Hartley's eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. The missions, the pressure, the politics. Somewhere along the way, I started believing that being hard meant being cruel. That respect had to be demanded rather than earned. A common mistake, Iris acknowledged, and one that costs lives in the field. Teams don't follow tyrants, Mason. They endure them until the mission allows otherwise. Real leadership, the kind that makes men and women willing to die for you, comes from love, not fear. Lieutenant Brad Knox, cradling his injured hand, spoke up. You could have hurt us. Really hurt us. Why didn't you? Iris looked at him with something approaching maternal patience. Because violence without purpose is just cruelty, and I've had enough of both for several lifetimes. Besides, a ghost of a smile touched her lips, you're all basically children to me. Deadly children with too many weapons and too much pride, but children nonetheless. Children? Knox sputtered. We're Navy SEALs. And I trained the men who trained the men who trained you, Iris replied. I wrote half the close quarters combat manual you studied. I designed the infiltration techniques you practice. Every time you execute a Morrison break on a door, you're using a technique I developed and named after my first casualty, Sergeant David Morrison, killed in action in Fallujah, 2004. The revelation landed like a physical blow. Every special operator knew the Morrison break. It was taught as gospel in training. Dr. Ashley Morgan, the base physician, had been edging closer throughout the conversation. Now she spoke up, her medical curiosity overcoming protocol. Your scars, may I? She gestured at Iris's exposed arm. Iris extended her arm, and Dr. Morgan examined the lattice of old wounds with professional interest. These are extraordinary. This one here, that's from a Russian PKM, isn't it? And this pattern, fragmentation grenade, but old style, maybe Vietnamese? She looked up sharply. How old were you when you started? 18, Iris replied. Recruited straight out of high school. IQ tests flagged me for advanced training. Physical assessments showed unusual spatial reasoning and reaction times. The Cold War was ending, but new threats were emerging. They needed operators who could think, not just shoot. And you were the best, Master Chief Williams said. It wasn't a question. I was effective, Iris corrected. Best implies competition. Ghost units don't compete. We complete missions. Period. Petty Officer Amber Hayes, who had been recording everything, finally lowered her phone. This is incredible. You're a living legend. The stories we heard in training, the Kabul 13, the Damascus extraction, the ghost of Grozny, that was all you? Stories, Iris said with a slight shake of her head. Always bigger in the telling than the living. Yes, those missions happened. No, they weren't as clean or heroic as the legends make them sound. Real operations are messy, brutal, full of impossible choices. She moved to the coffee station, automatically beginning to prepare a fresh pot. The mundane action a stark contrast to the revelations filling the room. The Kabul 13? I saved 13 diplomats, yes, but I had to leave 7 Marines behind to do it. They knew the math, volunteered to hold the position. Youngest was 19. The Damascus extraction? Successful, but my partner took a bullet meant for me. She lived, but never walked again. Her hands were steady as she measured coffee grounds, but her voice carried decades of accumulated grief. Every success has a shadow price. Every victory demands sacrifice. That's why I prefer this. She gestured at the coffee maker. To that. She nodded toward the weapons still scattered on the floor from the earlier demonstrations. Captain Samuel Reed had been typing furiously on his laptop, cross-referencing dates and locations. Wait, if you were Ghost 7, then the rumors about Operation Blackwater, the nuclear device in Tehran, the one that never detonated, classified, Iris said sharply, the command tone returning instantly. Then, softer, And it needs to stay that way. Some secrets serve no one by being revealed. But you saved millions of lives, Reed protested. And took hundreds to do it, Iris countered. The math might work on paper, but souls don't calculate that way. Every face stays with you. Every name becomes part of you. She touched the memorial tattoo on her arm. These 43 were just the ones under my direct command. The full count. Let's just say I'd need more skin. Commander Jessica Stone, who had been silent since the revelation, finally spoke. I don't believe it. This is all some elaborate hoax. Hidden cameras or something. There's no way a middle-aged cafeteria worker is some kind of super soldier. Before anyone could respond, Iris moved. One moment she was by the coffee maker, the next she was behind Stone, who found herself in a perfect rear-naked chokehold. Not applied, just positioned. Stone felt the controlled strength, the precise placement that could render her unconscious in seconds, or, with slightly different pressure, kill her instantly. Doubt is healthy, Commander, Iris whispered in Stone's ear. It keeps you alive in the field, but disrespect will get you killed. She released Stone and stepped back. I've been many things, but never a liar. Stone stumbled forward, her hand going to her throat. The demonstration had taken perhaps 2 seconds, but the message was clear. Iris could have killed everyone in the room before they knew what was happening. Chief Daniel Park, the security advisor, had been reviewing footage on his tablet. Ma'am, I've been watching the security recordings from the past 6 months, since you started working here. You've prevented 14 incidents without anyone noticing. 2 potential fights in the kitchen, 3 safety hazards, 1 attempted theft, and, he paused, looking up sharply, 8 times when you positioned yourself between base personnel and potential threats they never even saw. Habit, Iris admitted. Once you're trained to protect, it becomes instinct. Even when you're supposedly just serving coffee. There's more, Park continued. 3 weeks ago, when Lieutenant Patterson had that allergic reaction, you administered the EpiPen and performed emergency treatment before medical arrived. The way you handled it, that wasn't first aid training. That was combat medicine. Everyone should know basic medical response, Iris said, but her deflection was half-hearted. Basic medical response doesn't include performing a field tracheotomy with a coffee stirrer and a knife, Dr. Morgan interjected. I reviewed that case. What you did requires special operations medical training. Commander Foster's phone rang. He answered, his face growing increasingly serious as he listened. Yes, sir. Understood. Immediately, sir. He hung up and turned to Iris. That was CENTCOM, Admiral Richardson himself. He's ordering all personnel to vacate the mess hall, except for you and Admiral Hartley. He'll be on secure video in 5 minutes. The room erupted in protests, but Foster raised his hand. Direct order from the top. Everyone out. Now. Reluctantly, the crowd began filing out. Master Chief Williams paused beside Iris. It was an honor, ma'am. A true honor. The honor was mine, Master Chief, Iris replied. You held that position in Kandahar when I ordered you to. Lesser men would have run. As the room emptied, Chloe Chen approached nervously. Ma'am, Vice Admiral, I just wanted to say thank you, not just for today, but for everything you've done, everything you've sacrificed. Iris studied the young officer. How old are you, Lieutenant? 24, ma'am. Same age I was in Mogadishu, Iris mused. You remind me of myself then? Eager, idealistic, ready to change the world. Her expression grew serious. Don't let them take that from you, Chen. Don't let the weight of command crush your compassion. The military needs warriors, yes, but it needs human beings more. Remember that. Chen nodded, tears in her eyes, and hurried out. Soon, while only Iris, Admiral Hartley, and Commander Foster remained. Foster activated the secure video link, and the screen flickered to life, revealing Admiral James Richardson, Chief of Naval Operations, in his Pentagon office. Vice Admiral Caldwell, Richardson said formally, or should I say, Ms. Caldwell, as per your preference. Sir, Iris acknowledged, automatically straightening to attention, before catching herself and deliberately relaxing. I'm retired, Admiral. Just Iris now. Richardson's weathered face cracked a slight smile. You can retire from the Navy, Iris, but you can't retire from being who you are. Today's incident proves that. Today's incident was a misunderstanding, Iris said carefully. Today's incident, Richardson corrected, was a reminder of why we need people like you, active or not. His gaze shifted to Hartley. "Admiral Hartley, do you understand what you've done?" Hartley stood at rigid attention. "Sir, I conducted myself in a manner unbecoming." "You assaulted a federal asset," Richardson cut him off. "More than that, you violated the core principles of naval service. You used your rank to humiliate someone you perceived as powerless. If Vice Admiral Caldwell hadn't shown restraint, if she'd chosen to defend herself fully, you and your entire team would be in the hospital, or worse. Sir, I accept full responsibility." "Good, because you're relieved of command, effective immediately." The words hit Hartley like a physical blow. "Sir, your behavior today demonstrated a fundamental failure of leadership. But more than that, it showed you've forgotten why we serve. The Navy protects those who can't protect themselves. We don't prey on them." Richardson's voice was ice. "You'll return to Coronado for a full review board. Your future in the Navy will be determined then." Hartley's shoulders slumped in defeat, but Iris spoke up. "Admiral Richardson, with respect, that's not necessary." Both men looked at her in surprise. "Admiral Hartley made mistakes today. Serious ones," Iris continued. "But he's not beyond redemption. I trained him once. I saw his potential then, and despite today's events, I see it still. What he needs isn't punishment, it's remembering." "Remembering what?" Richardson asked. "Why he wanted to be a SEAL in the first place. Not for glory or power, but to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. To be the barrier between civilization and chaos. To serve something greater than his own ego." She looked at Hartley. "That young man is still in there, Admiral Richardson. He just got lost under the weight of command and the toxicity of military culture that sometimes rewards the wrong attributes." Richardson was quiet for a long moment. "What do you propose?" "Remedial training," Iris said. 6 months embedded with humanitarian operations. No combat, no glory missions, just serving people who need help. Refugee camps, disaster relief, medical missions. Remember what it means to protect the vulnerable rather than dominate them. "And you believe this will rehabilitate him?" Iris met Hartley's eyes. "I believe everyone deserves a second chance to become who they were meant to be. Mason was a good man once. He can be again." Tears were now flowing freely down Hartley's face. "After everything I did today—" "You acted like a fool," Iris said bluntly. "A cruel, arrogant fool, but fools can learn. The question is, will you?" "Yes," Hartley said immediately. "God, yes. I'm sorry. Not just for today, but for who I've become. For every person I've treated like you. For forgetting that rank is responsibility, not privilege." Richardson nodded slowly. "Very well. Admiral Hartley, you're reassigned to humanitarian operations, effective immediately. 6 months, as Vice Admiral Caldwell suggested. Fail to meet expectations, and you're out. No third chances." "Understood, sir. Thank you, sir." Richardson's attention returned to Iris. "Now, to the real reason for this call. Iris, we need you. I'm retired, Admiral. I'm not asking you to return to active duty, but we have a situation. 3 of your former Ghost Unit operators have gone dark in Mumbai. They were investigating a terrorist cell with nuclear ambitions. We've lost all contact." Iris's entire demeanor changed, the casual cafeteria worker vanishing as the operator emerged. "Who?" "Ghost 3, Ghost 5, and Ghost 9. Sarah, Marcus, and Jin," Iris said immediately, using names Richardson probably didn't even know. "How long?" 72 hours. Too long. They're either captured or dead. We believe captured. Intelligence suggests they're being held in a complex beneath the Dharavi slums. Local assets can't penetrate it, and sending in regular special operations would start a war we can't afford. But sending in a ghost who doesn't exist? Exactly. Richardson leaned forward. "Iris, I know what you sacrificed. I know why you left. But these are your people. You trained them, led them. If anyone can bring them home, it's me," Iris finished. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at something beyond the camera's view. Perhaps the ocean, perhaps the past, perhaps the 43 names tattooed on her arm. "When?" she finally asked. "Transport leaves in 6 hours. Everything you need will be provided. Your old equipment is in storage at—" "I know where it is," Iris interrupted. "I always knew this day might come. Peace was beautiful while it lasted." She turned to Commander Foster. "I'll need to submit my resignation from the kitchen staff. Tell them I had a family emergency." "Ma'am," Foster said, It's been an honor having you here, even if we didn't know it. You're a good commander, Foster. Your people respect you. That's rare. She moved toward the door, then paused. Take care of Lieutenant Chen. She has potential. Don't let the system grind it out of her. Yes, ma'am. She looked at Hartley one last time. Your second chance starts now, Mason. Don't waste it. I won't, Hartley said firmly. And ma'am, when you get back, if you get back, I'll be a different man. The man you trained me to be. I'll hold you to that, Iris said. Then, almost to herself, if I get back. Richardson cleared his throat. Iris, for what it's worth, the government owes you more than we can ever repay. This shouldn't be your burden. It's not about what the government owes, Admiral. It's about what I owe them, Sarah, Marcus, and Jin. They followed my orders for years, trusted me with their lives. I won't abandon them now. She headed for the door, and as she reached it, Richardson called out one more time. Iris, your code name for this operation? She paused, her hand on the door handle. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of resurrection. Phoenix, Ghost 7 Phoenix, because apparently some ghosts don't get to stay dead. As she left, Hartley turned to the screen. Admiral Richardson, will she really be alone? Richardson's expression was grim. Ghost units always operate alone. That's what makes them ghosts. The secure link terminated, leaving Hartley and Foster in silence. Through the window, they could see Iris walking across the base, still in her torn kitchen uniform. To anyone watching, she looked like nothing more than a tired cafeteria worker heading home after a long shift. 4 hours later, as the sun set over the Pacific, a nondescript van pulled up to a warehouse on the outskirts of the base. Iris, now dressed in civilian clothes, jeans and a simple black t-shirt, entered a code at the door. Inside, past dust-covered equipment and forgotten supplies, she pressed her hand against what looked like a rust stain on the wall. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a climate-controlled room. Her equipment waited, exactly as she'd left it 6 years ago. Custom body armor, thin and flexible, but rated for armor-piercing rounds. Communications gear that wouldn't be on the public market for another decade. Weapons, a customized HK-416 rifle, a pair of Glock 19s with suppressors, knives that were works of lethal art. And in a special case, her tactical helmet with its integrated night vision and thermal imaging systems. She suited up methodically, each piece of equipment finding its place as if she'd never stopped wearing them. The armor fit perfectly. She'd maintained her physical conditioning even in retirement, another habit that wouldn't die. As she checked her weapons, loaded magazines, and tested communications gear, the transformation was complete. Iris Caldwell, cafeteria worker, was gone. In her place stood Ghost 7, one of the most lethal human beings ever trained by the United States military. Her phone, not the civilian one, but the encrypted military device, buzzed with mission details. The complex in Mumbai, satellite imagery, last known positions of her captured operators. She memorized everything in minutes, her mind shifting into tactical mode, already planning infiltration routes, escape paths, contingency options. A knock at the door interrupted her preparation. She opened it to find Master Chief Williams standing there with a small group, Chloe Chen, Blake Rivera, even Hartley, and several others from the mess hall incident. We wanted to see you off, Williams said, and to apologize again for— No apologies necessary, Iris interrupted, but you should go. This facility doesn't officially exist. Neither do you, Rivera pointed out, but you're still here, still fighting for us. Chloe Chen stepped forward, offering something in her hand, a small pendant on a chain. My grandmother gave this to me when I joined the Navy, said it would keep me safe. I'd like you to have it. Iris took the pendant, a small anchor with a star in the center. I can't accept this. Please, Chen insisted, so a part of us goes with you, so you remember you're not alone, even when you are. Iris fastened the pendant around her neck, tucking it under her armor. Thank you. Admiral Hartley stepped forward last. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but come back. The Navy needs people like you, not as operators, but as teachers, mentors. We've lost our way, and we need guides to help us find it again. Focus on your own path first, Mason, Iris advised. Become someone worth following, then worry about leading others. A black helicopter appeared on the horizon, approaching fast and low, running without lights, her ride to Mumbai. Ma'am, Williams said, snapping to attention and rendering a perfect salute. The others followed suit, even Hartley, forming a line of respect for the woman they'd dismissed hours earlier. Iris returned the salute, then shouldered her equipment bag. "Take care of each other," she said, "and remember, strength without compassion is just violence. Power without purpose is just tyranny. Be better." She walked to the helicopter without looking back. As it lifted off, Chloe Chen whispered what everyone was thinking. "Will we ever see her again?" "Ghosts don't make promises," Williams replied. "They just complete missions." The helicopter disappeared into the darkness, carrying Ghost 7 toward Mumbai, toward 3 captured operators who needed their commander one more time. In the distance, the lights of San Diego twinkled like stars, unaware that their safety depended on people like Iris Caldwell, those who walked in shadows so others could live in light. Back in the mess hall, someone had cleaned up the coffee stains and repaired the damage from the confrontation. By tomorrow, it would be as if nothing had happened. A new cafeteria worker would take Iris's place and life would continue. But for those who witnessed the revelation, nothing would ever be the same. They'd learned that heroes didn't always wear uniforms or medals. Sometimes they wore aprons and served coffee. Sometimes they chose obscurity over acclaim, service over recognition. And sometimes, when the world needed them most, they answered the call one more time. 2 weeks later, international news reported a mysterious explosion in Mumbai's Dharavi slums. 3 American aid workers who had been kidnapped by terrorists were found safe, their captors dead from what local police described as professional execution. No one claimed responsibility. No military units were deployed. It was as if ghosts had swept through the complex, leaving only justice in their wake. At Naval Base Coronado, the morning shift in the mess hall noticed something different. Admiral Hartley, preparing for his humanitarian deployment, was serving coffee to enlisted personnel. When asked why, he simply said, "Someone taught me that real strength is in service, not status." Lieutenant Chen found a package on her desk. No return address, just a postmark from somewhere in Eastern Europe. Inside was a photograph. 3 rescued operators standing beside a woman whose face was obscured by tactical gear. But Chen recognized the stance, the way she held herself. Ghost 7 had completed her mission. Attached was a simple note. "Their home, the pendant brought luck. Keep fighting the good fight. I see." Master Chief Williams kept the note in his office, a reminder that true warriors never really retire. They just wait in the shadows until needed again. And somewhere in the world, Iris Caldwell had found a new coffee shop, a new kitchen, a new place to disappear. Because ghosts don't retire, they just choose new places to haunt. But that wasn't quite the end of the story. 6 months later, a congressional hearing was convened to investigate the treatment of veterans in civilian positions. The star witness was listed only as Operative 7, testifying from behind a screen to protect her identity. "Senators," the disguised voice began, "every day, thousands of veterans transition to civilian life. They take jobs in kitchens, offices, construction sites. They serve coffee, file papers, build homes. And every day, some of them face discrimination, mockery, dismissal, not because of their performance, but because of assumptions about who they are and what they're worth." The hearing room was silent, captivated by the voice that carried absolute authority despite its electronic distortion. "I've served this country for 30 years. I've completed missions you'll never know about, saved lives you'll never count, prevented disasters you'll never hear of. But when I chose to serve coffee instead of carrying a rifle, I was treated as less than human by people who claimed to support the troops." Senator Patricia Hayes leaned forward. "What do you recommend, Operative 7? "Respect," came the simple answer. "Not just for those in uniform, but for those who've taken it off. We don't stop being valuable when we stop being violent. Our worth isn't measured only in combat effectiveness. Sometimes the greatest service we can provide is simply showing that warriors can choose peace, that strength can be gentle, that heroes can be humble. And if people can't see past the surface," there was a pause, then what might have been a smile in the voice, "then perhaps they need to be reminded that surfaces can be deceiving, that the person serving their coffee might have saved their freedom, that the janitor cleaning their office might have prevented a nuclear war, that everyone deserves respect, not because of what they've done, but because of their inherent humanity." The hearing led to new legislation protecting veteran employees, increased funding for transition programs, and a national awareness campaign about the invisible heroes among us. Admiral Mason Hartley, returning from his humanitarian deployment a changed man, became the program's most vocal champion. At every speech, he told the same story, about a coffee server who taught him that true strength was in lifting others up, not tearing them down. He never mentioned her name. Some stories he'd learned were more powerful when the hero remained a mystery. But in military bases around the world, in quiet conversations between operators, the legend grew. Ghost 7, who chose peace over power. The admiral who served coffee. The warrior who disappeared not because she had to, but because she wanted to prove that there was life after war, purpose after violence, meaning after the mission. And in a small coffee shop somewhere, the location changed every few months. A middle-aged woman with gray eyes and steady hands served drinks to customers who had no idea they were in the presence of one of the most decorated military operators in American history. She liked it that way, because true strength, she'd learned, wasn't in being recognized. It was in serving without recognition. It was in choosing kindness when you had the power to choose cruelty. It was in protecting people who would never know they had been protected. The final scene belonged to Lieutenant Chloe Chen, now Captain Chen, standing before her own unit 5 years later. On her desk was the photograph from Mumbai, and on the wall was a simple plaque with an anonymous quote, "A warrior's greatest victory is choosing not to fight." Ladies and gentlemen, she addressed her team, before we begin today's mission briefing, I want to tell you a story. It's about a woman who served coffee and why she might have been the greatest warrior I ever met. As she spoke, somewhere in the world, Iris Caldwell smiled into her coffee steam. The mission continued, not the mission of violence and shadows, but the mission of proving that everyone, regardless of their current station, deserved dignity and respect. Ghost 7 had one final protocol, one last standing order that she followed every day. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle, even if that battle is just making it through another day of serving coffee to people who might never know that their server once saved the world. The screen faded to black with one final message. To all the invisible heroes among us, your service is seen, your sacrifice honored, even when you choose to remain in the shadows. And in mess halls and coffee shops around the world, veterans smiled, knowing that someone understood, someone remembered, someone knew that heroes didn't always wear capes or uniforms. Sometimes they wore aprons, sometimes they just served coffee, and sometimes that was the most heroic thing of all. 3 years had passed since the Mumbai incident. The world had moved on, new conflicts had emerged, and the legend of Ghost 7 had faded into military mythology. But in a small coastal town in Oregon, the past was about to collide with the present in ways no one could have predicted. Iris Caldwell, now going by the name Grace Mitchell, managed a small bookstore cafe that overlooked the Pacific. She'd chosen this spot carefully, remote enough to avoid attention, busy enough to blend in, peaceful enough to perhaps finally find the rest she'd sought for so long. The morning fog rolled in like clockwork, and she'd grown to love the rhythm of small-town life. It was a Thursday morning when everything changed. The bell above the door chimed, and a group of men entered, contractors by the look of their work clothes and tool belts. Iris glanced up from the espresso machine, offering her practiced customer service smile, then froze. Among them was a face she recognized, though older now, scarred and weathered, Dmitry Volkov, former Spetsnaz, supposedly dead after a failed operation in Chechnya 15 years ago. Their eyes met across the cafe. His widened in shock, then narrowed in calculation. He said something in rapid Russian to his companions, 4 other men who suddenly seemed less like contractors and more like soldiers. Iris continued making coffee, her movements calm and measured, but her mind raced through tactical assessments. 5 hostiles, likely armed. 14 civilians in the cafe, including a mother with 2 young children. 3 exits, front door, back entrance through kitchen, emergency window in the bathroom. Her weapons were locked in a safe beneath the counter, a Glock 19 and extra magazines. 22 seconds to retrieve them, too long if they moved first. "Sarah," one of the men said in accented English, using one of her old operational names. "Sarah Mitchell, we thought you were dead." "I think you have me confused with someone else," Iris replied evenly, handing a latte to a waiting customer. "Can I get you gentlemen something to drink?" Volkov smiled. the expression not reaching his eyes. Da, coffee, black, like old times in Belgrade, yes? When you killed my brother? The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Several customers looked up, sensing the tension. Iris's young assistant, Tommy, a college kid working part-time, stepped nervously beside her. "Grace, everything okay?" Tommy whispered. "Take your break, Tommy," Iris said quietly. "In fact, why don't you head home early today?" "But now, Tommy." The kid grabbed his backpack and practically ran out of the door. Smart boy. One less variable to manage. Volkov and his men spread out, taking strategic positions around the cafe. Not overtly threatening, but anyone with tactical training would recognize the pattern. They were cutting off exits, establishing fields of fire. 15 years, Volkov said conversationally, settling into a chair that gave him sightlines to all entrances. 15 years I've been looking for you. "The ghost who destroyed my family's operation. Do you know what you cost us?" "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about," Iris maintained her cover, though she knew it was pointless. "If you're not going to order, I'll have to ask you to leave." One of Volkov's men, younger, eager to prove himself, stood aggressively. "You don't tell us—" He never finished the sentence. The coffee pot in Iris's hand became a weapon, hot coffee splashing into his eyes as she moved. In the same motion, she dropped and rolled behind the counter, her hand finding the hidden release for the weapon's safe. The Glock was in her hand in 3 seconds, not 22. She'd been practicing. "Everyone out," she shouted to the civilians. "Now! Call 911!" Chaos erupted. Customers screamed, scrambling for exits. The mother grabbed her children, shielding them with her body as she ran. In the confusion, Volkov's men drew weapons, compact submachine guns hidden under their work clothes. Iris fired twice, precise shots that took down the man closest to the fleeing civilians. Non-lethal shots, kneecaps, designed to incapacitate without killing. She was trying to minimize casualties, but Volkov's team had no such compunctions. Automatic fire shattered the cafe's windows, sending glass cascading across the floor. Iris stayed low, using the heavy wooden counter as cover. She counted muzzle flashes, 4 shooters remaining. Her mind calculated angles, distances, ammunition counts. The Glock held 15 rounds. She'd fired 2. 13 left, plus 2 spare magazines, against 4 trained operators with automatic weapons. Not ideal odds, but she'd faced worse. "You've gotten soft, Sarah," Volkov called out. "The old you would have killed Alexei, not wounded him." "The old me was someone else," Iris replied, using his voice to pinpoint his location. Southwest corner, behind the overturned table. "That person died in Kandahar. People like us don't get to die, Sarah. We just get to choose where we make our last stand." More gunfire erupted, chewing through the counter. Iris heard sirens in the distance, local police maybe 3 minutes out. But 3 minutes was an eternity in a firefight. She needed to change the tactical situation. Grabbing a stainless steel napkin dispenser, she used it as a mirror to check positions. 2 men advancing on her position, one covering the back exit, Volkov maintaining overwatch. Time for Ghost 7 to remind them why she'd been feared across 3 continents. Iris burst from cover, but not where they expected. Instead of going over or around the counter, she went through it, kicking out a lower panel she'd weakened months ago as a contingency. She rolled out firing, 2 shots center mass on the nearest attacker. He went down hard. The second man swung his weapon toward her, but she was already moving, using the cafe's familiar layout to her advantage. Every table, chair, and corner was mapped in her mind. She slid behind the old piano in the corner, a genuine antique she'd restored herself, now serving as life-saving cover. 2 down, 3 to go, she called out. "Still want that coffee, Dimitri?" His response was a burst of gunfire that shredded the piano's wooden frame. Keys flew like shrapnel, discordant notes ringing out as bullets struck strings. But the shooting revealed his position, and Iris was already moving. She'd learned long ago that mobility was life in close-quarters combat. Stay still, and you die. Keep moving, and you might survive. She vaulted over the destroyed piano, firing suppressing shots to keep their heads down, then dove through the shattered window. Glass tore through her clothes, leaving bloody trails, but she ignored the pain. Pain was just information, and right now, she had more pressing concerns. Outside, the parking lot provided new options. Cars offered cover and concealment. She duck-walked between vehicles, circling back toward the cafe's rear entrance. The man covering it was focused inward, watching for her to attempt escape. He never saw her coming. A single shot to his shoulder spun him around, weapon falling from nerveless fingers. Iris kicked it away and zip-tied his hands. She always carried zip ties, another habit that wouldn't die. "Stay down and you'll live," she told him in Russian. "Try to move and you won't." Back inside, she could hear Volkov organizing his remaining men. 2 against 1 now, better odds but still dangerous. The sirens were closer, maybe 30 seconds out. "Police are coming, Dmitri," she called out. "Is revenge worth life in an American prison?" "Prison?" Volkov laughed. "We both know people like us don't go to prison. We go to black sites or graves." He had a point. Men like Volkov, with his connections to Russian intelligence, would either be traded in some secret deal or eliminated to prevent international incidents. There was no justice for people who operated in their world, only survival or death. A flash of movement caught her eye, one of Volkov's men trying to flank her through the kitchen. She fired through the wall, guessing at his position based on sound and movement patterns. A cry of pain told her she'd guessed right. 1-on-1 now, just her and Volkov, like it should have been from the beginning. "It didn't have to be this way," she said, moving carefully through the devastated cafe. Broken glass crunched under her feet. Coffee mixed with blood on the floor. Her beautiful, peaceful sanctuary had become another battlefield. "Your brother was selling weapons to terrorists. Children were dying because of his trades. I gave him a chance to surrender. And he refused, so you killed him." "He killed himself when he chose to pull that gun." She sensed movement to her left and spun, but Volkov was faster than she remembered. His weapon was already trained on her. They stood frozen, guns pointed at each other's heads, a Mexican standoff with no good outcome. 15 years of planning, Volkov said, tracking rumors of a ghost, following whispers and shadows. I gave up everything, my commission, my country, my name, just to find you. And now you have. Was it worth it? Before he could answer, the front door exploded inward. Not the local police. They wouldn't breach so aggressively. Tactical teams flooded in, weapons raised, shouting commands. But these weren't SWAT officers. The equipment was too advanced, the movements too precise. "Weapons down! Now!" The lead operator's voice was familiar. Iris's heart sank as she recognized Captain Blake Rivera, no longer base security, but apparently recruited into something more specialized. "Rivera," she said, not lowering her weapon. Neither did Volkov. "Ma'am, lower your weapon. We've got this." "This is a private matter, Captain." "Not anymore. Volkov, you're under arrest for terrorism, weapons trafficking, and conspiracy. Lower your weapon or we will engage." Volkov smiled bitterly. "Americans, always arriving just in time to claim victory." He looked at Iris. "This isn't over, Sarah. Even if they take me, others will come. We know you're alive now. The word will spread." "Then let it spread," Iris said quietly. "I'm tired of running, tired of hiding. You want to know where to find me? I'll be right here, selling coffee and books, trying to live a normal life. And anyone who comes for me will get the same reception you did." Volkov considered this for a long moment, then slowly lowered his weapon. Rivera's team moved in immediately, restraining him and his wounded men. As they dragged him away, he called out one last time. "You can't escape what you are, Sarah. None of us can." The cafe fell silent, except for the crackle of police radios and the distant sound of helicopters. Rivera approached Iris, who had finally lowered her weapon and was surveying the destruction of her carefully built life. "Ma'am, Vice Admiral, are you injured?" "It's Grace now," she said tiredly, "and I'm fine, just some cuts." "We need to get you to a secure location. If Volkov found you, others might—" "No." The simple refusal stopped him mid-sentence. "Ma'am?" "No more running, no more hiding. Volkov was right about one thing. We can't escape what we are, but we can choose how we live with it." She looked around the destroyed cafe. "I'll rebuild. Better security this time. Maybe some reinforced walls, bulletproof glass. A proper armory in the basement." Rivera looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "You want to stay here after this?" "This is my home now, Captain. I've fought for everyone else's freedom to live in peace. Maybe it's time I fought for my own." 2 hours later, the tactical teams were gone, the wounded evacuated, and crime scene tape surrounded the cafe. Iris sat on the curb, a bandage on her forehead, watching the sun break through the Oregon fog. A familiar figure approached, Master Chief Ethan Williams, in civilian clothes now, fully retired. "Heard you had some trouble," he said, sitting beside her. "How did you—" "Rivera called me. Thought you might need a friend." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the waves crash against the distant shore. 43 names on my arm," Iris said quietly. "Today I didn't add any more." "That's good, Iris. That's real good. But Volkov was right. Others will come now. My location will spread through the intelligence underground. Every mercenary with a grudge, every terrorist organization I've hit, every arms dealer I've cost money, they'll all know where to find me." Williams was quiet for a moment, then pulled out his phone. "Then maybe you need help." "Ethan, no, I won't drag anyone else into—" "Already done," he interrupted, showing her his phone screen. A group text with dozens of responses. Posted in the SEAL Veterans Network, said a friend needed help rebuilding after an incident. Look at the responses. Iris read through them, her eyes widening. Offers of help from across the country. Construction expertise, security systems, donations, and more importantly, volunteers willing to come help rebuild. "That's—" she started, then stopped, overcome with emotion. "That's brotherhood," Williams finished. "Or in your case, sisterhood. You've spent your whole life protecting others, Iris. Maybe it's time you let others protect you." Over the next month, the small coastal town witnessed something extraordinary. Veterans arrived from across the nation. SEALs, Delta, Rangers, Marines, Air Force PJs. They came with tools and expertise, rebuilding the cafe stronger than before, but more than that, they came with understanding. The local news picked up the story, not the full truth, of course. The official version was that a veteran-owned business had been attacked by criminals and the veteran community had rallied to help. But those who knew, knew. And word spread through military channels that this small Oregon town was under protection. Captain, now Major, Chloe Chen arrived on week 2, taking leave to help with the rebuild. She found Iris installing a new espresso machine, one with steel plating behind its chrome exterior. "Bulletproof coffee maker?" Chen asked. "Seemed appropriate," Iris replied. "How's the career, Major?" "Good. Your training helped. That thing you said about strength and compassion, I've tried to live by it. And it's harder than combat, but more rewarding too." Admiral Mason Hartley arrived on week 3, no longer in uniform, but carrying himself with the quiet dignity of someone who had found redemption. He didn't say much, just picked up a hammer and started working. On his last day, he left a check for $50,000 and a note. "For the customers who deserve better service than I gave." The cafe reopened exactly 1 month after the attack. The exterior looked the same. Iris insisted on maintaining the cozy, welcoming appearance. But anyone with tactical knowledge would recognize the subtle changes. Reinforced walls, bulletproof glass that looked normal, sight lines that eliminated blind spots, and discreet security cameras covering every angle. The opening day drew a crowd. Locals who had heard about the attack came to show support. Veterans drove in from hundreds of miles away. Even some active duty personnel on leave made appearances. And in the corner, at a table with perfect visibility of all entrances, sat an unexpected guest. Admiral James Richardson, Chief of Naval Operations, in civilian clothes. "Admiral," Iris said, bringing him coffee without being asked. "This is a surprise." "I'm retired as of yesterday," he said. "Figured I'd see what this civilian life is all about. Heard this was a good place to start." "You retired to come to my cafe?" "I retired because 40 years was enough. I came to your cafe because someone needs to make sure you're not alone when the next Volkov shows up." "I don't need—" "Not protection," Richardson interrupted. "Company. There's a difference." That afternoon, as Iris served coffee and recommended books to customers who had no idea they were being served by one of the most decorated warriors in American history, she noticed something. At various tables, reading newspapers or working on laptops, were familiar faces. Williams in the corner, Chen by the window, even Hartley, nursing a tea and reading a book on humanitarian aid. They weren't there as guards or protection. They were there as friends, as family. As people who understood that the war never really ends for people like them, it just takes different forms. Late that evening, after closing, Iris stood in her rebuilt cafe. The walls held new memories now, photographs from the rebuild, signed dollar bills from visiting veterans, a plaque by the door that simply read, "Everyone who enters here is under protection." Her phone buzzed, not her civilian phone, but the encrypted device she'd kept despite retirement. A message from an unknown number, but the encryption signature was familiar. Ghost Unit Protocols. Ghost 7. This is Ghost 12. I'm in trouble. Bangkok. They found me. Please. Ghost 12. Maria Santos, one of her last recruits before retirement. Brilliant operator, but young, maybe too young for the weight of being a ghost. Iris looked around her cafe, her hard-won peace, her attempt at normal life. Then she looked at the message again. One of her people needed her. She typed back, "Send coordinates. I'm coming." Then she walked to the new basement, accessed via hidden panel behind the storage shelf. Down the reinforced stairs was something the renovation crew had insisted on, an armory. Not just her old equipment, but new additions, gifts from the veteran community, latest generation tactical gear, weapons, communication equipment, everything a ghost might need. As she geared up, she heard footsteps on the stairs. Williams appeared, already in tactical gear. "You're not going alone," he said simply. "Ethan, non-negotiable. Besides, I'm retired. This is just two old friends taking a vacation to Thailand." Chen appeared next, also geared up. "Make that 3 friends." Then Hartley. 4. And Richardson. 5. Always wanted to see Bangkok. Iris looked at them. This unlikely team of volunteers, each with their own demons, their own reasons for leaving service, but all united by something stronger than orders or duty. "This isn't your fight," she said. "No," Williams agreed. "It's yours, but you're not alone anymore, Iris. You never have to be alone again." For the first time in decades, Ghost 7 smiled, really smiled. Not the practiced customer service expression or the grim satisfaction of a mission complete, but genuine warmth. "All right," she said, "but we do this my way. Quiet in, quiet out. No bodies if we can avoid it." "Understood, ma'am," they chorused. As they loaded into an unmarked van, heading for a private airfield where a discreet aircraft waited, Iris realized something had changed. She wasn't Ghost 7 anymore, the solo operator who trusted no one and needed no one. She was something new. Still a warrior, still a protector, but no longer alone. The war had indeed never ended. But now, at least, she had allies in fighting it. The van disappeared into the Oregon night, carrying 5 warriors toward another battle. But this time, it wasn't a mission ordered by governments or commanded by admirals. It was a choice, to protect their own, to stand together, to prove that some bonds transcend service and survive even in the shadows. Back in the cafe, a note was taped to the door. "Closed for family emergency, will reopen soon. Please be patient." The locals would wait. They had learned that their small town had a guardian angel, one who sometimes had to spread her wings and fly to distant lands. But she always came back. She always came home. Because home wasn't just a place anymore. It was people. It was community. It was the knowledge that no matter how dark the shadows grew, there would always be someone willing to stand beside you in them. A week later, international news reported a strange incident in Bangkok. A human trafficking ring had been destroyed overnight, their victims freed, their leaders captured or killed. No organization claimed responsibility. Thai authorities found no evidence of military involvement. But in a small Oregon town, 5 friends sat in a rebuilt cafe, nursing injuries that would heal and memories that wouldn't, knowing they had made a difference. And behind the counter, making coffee with bandaged hands, Iris Caldwell, Grace Mitchell, Ghost 7, smiled at customers who would never know their barista had just saved 37 lives on the other side of the world. The bell above the door chimed, and a young woman entered. Asian features, military bearing despite civilian clothes, eyes that had seen too much. She approached the counter hesitantly. "I'm looking for Grace Mitchell," she said. "That's me," Iris replied. "What can I get you?" The woman, Maria Santos Ghost 12, studied her for a moment, then said quietly, "A coffee. And maybe a job?" "I hear you're hiring." Iris looked at Williams, who nodded. Chen smiled. Hartley raised his cup in a silent toast. Richardson just winked. "As it happens," Iris said, "I am. Can you start tomorrow?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. And Maria, welcome home." Because that's what the cafe had become. Not just a business or a cover identity, but a sanctuary. A place where ghosts could stop running, where warriors could rest, where those who had given everything for their country could finally find peace. Even if that peace had to be defended with bulletproof glass and the willingness to fly halfway around the world to rescue one of their own. The story of Ghost 7 had become something larger, a legend not of one operator, but of a community, of warriors who refused to let each other fall, of strength found not in isolation but in connection. And in military bases around the world, in intelligence agencies and special operations units, the word spread. There's a cafe in Oregon where ghosts can find peace, where warriors can remember their humanity, where no one fights alone. Just don't cause trouble there, because the woman who serves your coffee might be the deadliest person you've ever met, and she's not alone anymore. She never will be again.
Deadliest